it's like, why not just use the speaker?
I did text message actually a little more because I hear about that all the time, and you think maybe 50 years down the road or something, it will kind of affect you negatively. And so you see people use that all the time, and you think, maybe we'll all be affected if the CDC kind of back in the 40s or something like that. So it definitely is a concern right now for me.
You think there's a link between cell phones and brain cancer? That's our quick vote question tonight. Go to CNN.com/Larry King right now. Cast your vote. Joining our panel from New York is Dr. Ted Schwartz, Director of Brain Tumor Surgery at New York's Presbyterian Hospital, Weill Cornell. Where do you stand on this issue, Ted?
Well, Larry, thanks for asking. First of all, I want to say that I certainly understand the public's fear of this issue, and I think that I want to do everything I can for myself, for my patients, for my family, to avoid any risk that would cause brain tumors. But I think there are a few things that we all agree upon here. The first is that the majority of brain tumors are not caused by cell phones. Brain tumors have been around long before cell phones were in existence. There is not an increased incidence of brain tumors significant, and it's probably an increased incidence of our ability to pick them up and our ability to publicize them. The other thing I think we all agree upon is that the currently available literature is at best inconclusive about whether there is a link between cell phone use and brain tumors. There are just as many studies showing that cell phones decrease the risk of brain tumors as increase the risk. And we're not here talking about the fact that cell phones may be protective against
brain tumors. What do you make of the report out of the University of Pittsburgh?
Yeah. Well, the Pittsburgh report is no new data. They're just looking at the data that currently exists. And one of the problems with these long-term studies, these 10-year studies, is that they're based on the use of analog cell phones. Nobody uses analog cell phones anymore. They have a higher power. They emit more power. We use digital phones now, and there's absolutely no data on digital phones, their long-term use, and the incidence of cancer. So the question is it reasonable to base a public health warning on a lack of evidence? Because basically we have no good evidence one way or the other. And my answer is no.
Let's take a call. St. Louis, Missouri. Hello.
Oh, good evening, Larry, and good evening to your panel. I actually have two quick questions. If there's any studies showing that using cordless phones are harmful, and living by a cell phone tower, if that is harmful.
Two good questions. Cordless phones, Dr. Black.
Cordless phones emit a much lower frequency of radiation, and they're much safer than cell phones, and I have no real concerns, Larry, with cordless phones.
Well, there has been a study from Sweden where they've used cordless phones longer, and unfortunately what they found was that there was a doubled risk of a brain tumor with long use of cordless phones, and many cordless phones actually have as much radiation as a cell phone, if not more.
Cell phone tower?
That's something that's still in debate. There's a lot of investigation whether or not there might be an increase of lymphoma but with people living next to cell phone towers, but still no good conclusive data exists.
I guess that's the issue, if I may say. The data that we're talking about here are human, sick people. And that's the challenge, and that's why Dr. Herbermann wrote the memo, because that's what we do at Pittsburgh. We're doing one of the best things in the world in terms of treating people with cancer. All of the people here work on that. And yet, if we think there's a way to avoid future cancers by reducing a risk of something that may cause a lot of problems in the future, we ought to try to do that.
Dr. Schwartz, how do you use your cell phone?
I put it right up to my ear, and don't use an earpiece unless I'm driving, which I think is the general recommendation. Yeah.
You put it right up to your ear?
Yeah, I have it right here, but I wouldn't take a call. So I think it is safe to use, again, based on the currently available data. We don't know whether watching a television has an increased risk of causing cancer. We don't know whether using a hairdryer increases your risk of cancer. And in fact, there are some studies showing that there might be a link, but they're not well-performed studies. So we don't go around issuing public health warnings about it based on the fact that we don't really know and that we don't have enough evidence. So I just think it's a little premature to issue those kinds of warnings.
Dr. Davis stays with us, Dr. Schwartz, and Dr. Song, Dr. Black. Always good seeing you. Thank you very much. Stay well. You did 4 brain surgeries today, right?
Correct.
Larry King Live contacted cell phone companies to take part in tonight's program. We've contacted T-Mobile, AT&T, Motorola, LG Electronics, Qualcomm, Nokia, RIM, Verizon, Samsung, and Sprint. All declined our invitation. We contacted Ericsson, too, got no response. Many companies we spoke with referred us to the association that represents the wireless industry, and they, too, declined our invitation, but they did give us this statement, quote, "This is an issue that should be, guided by science. The overwhelming majority of studies that have been published in scientific journals around the globe show that wireless phones do not pose a health risk. Furthermore, this is the public position of leading health organizations such as the United States Food and Drug Administration, the American Cancer Society, and the World Health Organization. Public statements and declarations not guided by published scientific research can have the effect of misinforming the general public. As technology continues to evolve, the industry supports continued research, but we want to stress the fact that this is a consensus among leading health organizations concerning published scientific research, and they show no reason for concern, and we'll be right back.